Welcome to TisTalk.
Welcome to TisTalk. This is a podcast coming from Tisbury, Wiltshire and surrounding villages. I'm Julianne Murphy.
And I'm Mary Myers.
This is the week beginning the 10th of February.
Hello, Julianne.
Hello, Mary.
How are things?
Yeah, very good on this cold and icy day. Things are well.
And I hear you've been in the church talking to the bell ringers and looking at the new stained glass window.
Yeah, I was in the church, found out I know nothing about bell ringing, so that was quite interesting. And I had a chance to sit and contemplate the new east window. And it was a beautiful day. And the light was right behind it. It was sort of gorgeous. It was lovely. Very modern. There's no getting away from it. But it is really stunning colours. I think it enhances that chapel in the church. And I'm sure people will enjoy sitting there looking at it.
Great. Yeah, I mean, when I had the chance to see it, but it was only very close up, I could already see that the colours were going to be really stunning.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
Great. So shall I tell you what I thought we can have on this week?
Yeah, let's hear the lineup, Mary.
Well, you've of course talked to Anthony Lovell-Wood, and so we're going to have the bells, so that'll be good. And of course, an extract from the dedication service that happened on Sunday.
Yeah.
And then we've got Liz Coyle Camp as the Yew Tree again.
Yeah, and it's the Elizabethans this week.
Great. That's something to look for. It's always something to look forward to. And we have a review from Kate Gam about a new exhibition at Messums. And then, the night sky.
Oh, yeah, the lovely Steve Tonkin.
Yeah, and then the what songs.
Great.
First up, we're in St John's Church with Anne Martin and Julianne. And they're listening to the bells and joining in with the celebrations and the dedication of the new east window. Firstly, here's Anthony Lovell-Wood, Tower Captain.
Suddenly occurred to me, we've got this window dedication coming up at the time. This was back in December. And I said, how about ringing it as part of the dedication? We like to do peals here for a purpose, not just to ring them.
I would imagine you have to be quite fit, well practised.
Well, very well practised.
And do they do it in a relay, or do they stand there for three?
They stand there for 3 hours and ring what we call methods, in fact tunes. They will ring whatever the tunes is they've decided to ring.
So just tell me a bit about you, Anthony. So are you the head bell ringer for St John's?
I'm captain of the tower, yeah. Captain of the tower.
Is that a real title?
Yeah.
Okay. And how long have you done that for?
5-10 years, I've lost track. I took over from Les Oliver. Yes, I've rung here for over 35 years.
Have you?
Very shortly I'll be coming up to my 50th year of ringing. But ringers very often ring well into their 70s, 80s, 90s. But as I said, we are always looking for new recruits. We've had several join us in the last year or so.
And if anybody wanted to join, Anthony, what should they do?
Well, initially come down here on a Wednesday evening around 7 o'clock, which is when we practice. And we will show them what goes on.
Okay.
And give them a go. They basically learn how to handle the rope.
So when you say weak, so some people have a knack or a natural talent for it. But other people who don't can learn.
They can learn. It's not something that people take too easily, but if they do take to it, they'll never want to do anything else.
It's really interesting. Thank you, Anthony.
The Church of St John the Baptist in Tisbury is packed.
The organ music is playing and we're ready for the dedication of the east window. I'm sitting at the back with about 10 of us. We've been in the hall for 2 hours dishing up cakes. We've got 500 cakes. So we hope that everybody after the service will pile into Hinton Hall and eat all our cakes. The dedication service for the East Window in Tisbury was a very splendid occasion and really important for us. It was very wonderful, with a procession of deans and clergy into the church and incredible singing from the Tisbury choir. After the service, about 250 people crammed into Hinton Hall, and the hot cups of tea were very welcome because it was pretty cold in the church yesterday, and people massed around the cake and the tea stall and really, I think, enjoyed the whole occasion. Prince Charles was invited, or rather King Charles, was invited, and he said he was very interested in coming, but he was unable to come. However, the Lord Lieutenant of Wiltshire came in his place, and she looked rather wonderful in a big sort of red and black suit, which looked rather like a sort of drum major.
TisTalk, a podcast from Tisbury on tistalk.buzzsprout.com.
Next, the Yew Tree is contemplating Tisbury during the reign of Elizabeth I.
Queen Elizabeth I was a strong and upright female who lasted a very long time. Who does that remind you of? Well, me, of course. And I always felt we both wanted nothing more than to think the people we looked out over were happy and living fruitful and peaceful lives. So, Elizabeth and I had much in common, not to mention our regal good looks. At the time, I used to think everyone could see the resemblance, especially when my lovely red berries were on show. But maybe, well, yes, I was being a tad fanciful. Anyway, by the time Elizabeth came to the throne in 1558, if my memory serves me, we were all heartily sick of the turmoil caused by her father and her 2 half-siblings. We may have been a long way from London, but you'd be surprised at how Tisbury could be shook up by the whims of the aristocrats and gentry swanning around Westminster. For instance, Edward VI, in his short-lived reign, had our poor Thomas Arundel taken to the Tower and beheaded, and his beloved Wardour Castle and lands confiscated. Yes, in those days you only had to look sideways at someone to be escorted to the block, and you and your head disengaged from one another. And it seems charges against poor Thomas were entirely trumped up. Such were the times. Luckily for the Arundels, their properties were later reinstated and Thomas's son, Sir Matthew, restored to Wardour Castle, and not too long after, Elizabeth came to the throne, and some sense of stability in these lands was restored for the 45 years of her long reign. And for the first time in a long time, Tisbury felt a sense of calm. So, the honest working folk of Tisbury had a chance to just get on with their lives. Tisbury was growing. More good and solid houses that still stand to this day were built. Some buildings were made much posher, like Gaston Manor and Old Wardour Castle, and the people that keep the wheels turning, like the farmers and the weavers and the quarrymen and the blacksmiths and carpenters, were busy. The women at this time, although they contributed to agricultural work during the harvest and they could be employed making lace or brewing ale, were mostly at home raising their many children. Families were large in those days, and I remember the numerous little ones playing hide-and-seek under my branches, relieved to be let out of church. It was nothing unusual to have families of 5 or even 7 children with their parents attending the church for worship on a Sunday. Sadly, the children did not always survive, so the more you had, the more chances there were that some would live into adulthood. Children were also treated as workers and expected to be employed in helping out in the house or on the farm from a very young age, or even sent out to earn money. Childhood, as yet, had not been invented. Well, as you can imagine, myself and fellow trees inspired poets throughout the centuries, and one you might recognise from this period was no exception. Is it possible his wandering company of players and musicians ever passed this way and sat under my sheltering boughs or in my hollowed-out trunk here in Tisbury? Well, who knows? But I like to think young Will Shakespeare thought of me when he wrote, "Under the greenwood tree, who loves to lie with me, and turn his merry note unto the sweet bird's throat. Come hither, come hither, come hither. Here should he see no enemy, but winter and rough weather." Next week, England goes belly up.
The Yew Tree Chronicles. This is TisTalk from Tisbury, Wiltshire.
Now, Kate Gamm is at Messums Gallery appreciating the colours.
A new season at Messums Gallery continues with 2 contrasting exhibitions that bring vibrant light and colour at this grey time of the year. Landscape Painting Today in the Tithe Barn invites us to consider how environmental change impacts on both the artist and the viewer. The co-curator of the exhibition, Wilfred Wright, explains how the exhibition came about and the thinking behind it.
It came out of an open call to artists to sort of present work that maybe thinks about landscape in a different way, because I think people think of landscape painting as a genre as quite a sort of staid genre. It's, maybe pretty pictures of fields, lots of broad horizons, and something that's very sort of traditional, and it is absolutely embedded, particularly in this country, in our art history. But in the 21st century, as in all genres, I suppose, in all mediums, things are moving on, things are changing constantly. And this is something that we wanted to explore in terms of landscape painting, because it feels more and more prescient to think about environment and think about our relationship with nature in new ways in the light of environmental crises and political changes. So we put out this open call, and we had an incredible response. We had, I think it was more than 450 people who came out of the woodwork, and some really, really extraordinary work. And it started out, we had a show in London, a much smaller exhibition. We decided, because that was so successful and the response to it was so wonderful in terms of the public reception, that we'd bring it down to Wiltshire and have a sort of larger presentation and bring in a few more artists who'd applied to the open call to present their work. And so that's what we've got today.
The exhibits are widely varied in style and scale, from the North Atlantic to the Pacific Ocean, as well as the most detailed close-ups of nature in the wild. All have their place and need to be preserved. The environmental theme continues with an exhibition in the Long Gallery featuring the work of painter Annette de Maistre, joined by sculptor Hugo Colville. What's immediately striking is the theme of lapis blue and gold leaf present in Annette's paintings, joined by sculptures created from found materials by Hugo in a show inspired by the home they share in rural West Wales. Both exhibitions continue until Monday, the 24th of February, and as ever, entrance is free. The Mess Cafe will be open too, serving great coffee, cake and lunches.
Follow us on Instagram at TisTalk Radio.
Now Steve Tonkin, the Dark Sky Advisor for the Cranbourne Chase National Landscape, tells us what we should be looking out for in February's night sky.
So I'm back at the Nadder Centre with Steve Tonkin, our astronomer, who's going to tell us all about the night sky in February.
Yes, well, February is a lovely month for stargazing, mainly because we can see some of my favourite objects, which are star clusters, which are just clusters of stars, usually quite young stars, recently formed and generally easy to find. Some of them you can see with your naked eye, but binoculars make it so much better. So we're going to assume you're using binoculars. Doesn't matter what sort, just ordinary birding binoculars, don't need to be particularly big, but just something just to enhance your vision slightly. So
Right.
that's what we're going to do this month.
Okay, great.
Well, the first cluster we're going to look at is in the south. Now, I hope you could recognize the constellation Orion, which has got 2 bright stars near the top, 2 bright stars at the bottom, and then 3 in the middle, relatively close together, which make its belt.
So say if you were standing on Wynn Green, which way should you be looking?
Oh, south. Definitely
Okay.
south. Towards the light pollution of, or just to the right of the light pollution of Bournemouth, Christchurch and Poole.
Okay.
But Orion's bright enough to beat through any light pollution from there you might see. So, yeah,
Okay.
enjoy that. Well, the first thing to look at, of course, is the belt, because that's actually part of a huge cluster of stars, which people often don't even realize. Look at that through binoculars. It's absolutely gorgeous. You'll see tens of stars, beautiful curves and twists and lines and little groups of stars within that. But we're not going to stay there for very long. We're going to follow that belt stars down to the left. So you follow the line of the belt down to the left, and you get to the brightest star in the night sky, which is the dog star, Sirius. From Sirius, hold your hand out in front of you, and 2 finger widths down, there's another little cluster of stars which you can easily see in binoculars. It's very bright. It's called M41.
Sounds like a motorway.
It does. Actually, it stands for Messier. Charles Messier was a comet hunter. He was astronomer for one of the French kings, and he was trying to find comets. And he kept classifying things that weren't comets, so not to bother to look at them because they weren't comets. But now we know they're very interesting things.
Right.
So enjoy that, and then go about 3 fingers down further. You come to a white star called Vazen or Wazen. And then we're going to go 1.5 fingers up to the left, and there's a lovely bluish star, which is called Tau Canis Majoris, which sounds very posh or whatever, but don't worry about the names of the stars. It's just, that's the way to find it. It's that blue one there.
Right. And why is it blue?
Because it's incredibly hot. If you heated metal up, go red and then yellow hot, white hot. If you could heat it even more without it turning to a vapor, then it would go blue hot. So it's a very hot, very young star, and it's part of another one of these clusters. So it's the central star in a beautiful cluster. And I think part of it beautiful is because it looks this bluish-white blaze in the middle of it. And that's called, would you believe, NGC 2362.
How poetic.
Yes, indeed, isn't it? Well, it's part of a catalogue, which is called the New General Catalogue, hence NGC. It's not that new anymore. This is, going back to 18th, 19th century. Where better telescopes, they could suddenly see many more of these fuzzy blobs and clusters and that in the sky. So it would just all catalogue that. But just scan up from there in binoculars, because there are lots and lots of clusters around there. And it's very difficult not to see any. And the darker the place you are, the more there are you can see. So get up to Wind Green or somewhere like that where it's dark, and just look up into the sky with binocs. And I can spend hours doing that. It's so gorgeous. But if you want help doing it, we've got a couple of stargazing evenings coming up. And the first one is on the 15th of February, and that is in Martin. And the next one is on the 26th of February, and that is in Dameron. And if you look on our website, which is cranbournechase.org.uk, you'll be able to find details from there.
And are those some paying events?
No, absolutely free. As far as I'm concerned, the sky is a free resource. The night sky, you shouldn't have to pay to look at the night sky. It's something that is our heritage for all of us.
Quite right.
And I'm just trying to keep it as dark as possible, because then we can see more and enjoy it more.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Steve.
That's a pleasure.
TisTalk, a podcast from Tisbury on tistalk.buzzsprout.com.
And we end with the What Songs with Lal Pointer.
Monday the 10th at 6:30 there will be an annual general meeting of the Tisbury swimming pool at the Nadder Centre. All are welcome to attend. Tuesday the 11th, Tisbury History Society AGM at 7 p.m. in the Hinton Hall, followed by a talk by Jonathan Tetley on the history of carpet knotting and a film on the old RAF Chilmart Railway. Tea, coffee and wine will be served. Members are free. Annual membership is £15. Tisbury Community Choir meets on Thursday evenings throughout the year from 7:30 to 9:30 p.m. in the Methodist Church. Email carol@thesays.co.uk to find out more.
Also on Thursday the 13th.
At 7:30, Tisbury Natural History Society talk is The Future of the British Landscape by Peter Thompson, plus the AGM. On Friday the 14th, Valentine's Day, there is going to be a DJ set at the Bennett. Please attend from 8 p.m, spinning an eclectic mix of music strictly on vinyl. On Saturday the 15th, the Rain or Shine Theatre Company bring their production of Murder Most Wild to the Victoria Hall at 7 p.m. A new adaptation of Oscar Wilde's comic and quirky tale, Lord Arthur Saville's Crime. This is a delightfully silly Victorian comedy, chock full of muddled murder attempts and comic confusion. Tickets are £14 and £8 for children. Book at newvictisbury.com. A film about the artist Edward Munch is on screen at the New Vic. Sunday the 16th of February, 7 p.m. Tickets are £10. And that's it for this week.
That's all from us this week.
So we've been Mary Myers and Julianne Murphy, and special contributor Liz Coyle Camp. Also special thanks to Lal Pointer, Kate Gam and Anne Martin.
We'd love to hear from you. You can contact us on tistalkradio@gmail.com.
You can listen every week to a new episode of TisTalk, and you can find any episode you've missed at tistalk.buzzsprout.com.
You can also find us on Facebook. Just search for TisTalk, that's all one word. And also look out for us on the Nextdoor app.
And now also on Instagram on TisTalk Radio. So do listen in next week for more stories from Tisbury. Bye-bye.
Bye.